thanks, Marian. I travel all over the state of Kentucky, and I spend a lot of time in a hotel. And trust me, bed bugs are no joke. One of my bosses has just had an experience with that, and he tells me that he must have had 30 or 40 bites on his back alone, a couple on his arms, whatever, and a well-known chain. And I won't tell you what the name of the chain is, but it's no joke. So thank you very much for Marian. Thank you for your kind words. Does everybody is supposed to have 2 of these, 2 sheets. Anybody does not have 2 sheets yet?
They are the same?
Yeah, they're the same, 2 sheets.
One more.
Okay. Let's get started just a little bit. I've got a little bit of time, it looks like. I come from Jasper, Indiana. We're in southern Indiana, halfway between Evansville and Louisville. And the question before the house is that our church is in the National Historical Register. We're very fortunate the church took 13 years to build and was constructed from 1867 to 1880. What I find real interesting, and if there were one person I'd really like to talk to, was our pastor at that time. His name was Father Fidelis Mott. He was a very interesting individual. Not only was he the contractor, so to speak, he was the straw boss. And I know we're up in here in Yankee territory, but does anybody know what a straw boss is when I use that term? Yeah. And so he not only did all the details, but he also rolled up his sleeves. And when they were working, he was out there and really helping in construction. Now, what's interesting about that is after the announcements on Sunday, they had a list where you signed up for how you were going to help in the construction that week. Now, they did bring in stonemasons from Europe. They brought in professionals. But a lot of the day-to-day labor was done by the parishioners. And if you couldn't lift heavy things, you helped cook or however you did whatever you needed to do. Can you imagine what would happen, Steve, if you signed up for a week and you didn't show up? Where was Steve at, right? Where was Sally Ann at? But what's interesting is the church is maybe not quite to the scale of Europe, but it's a pretty impressive structure. The sandstone walls are 4 to 6 feet thick. It has a tile roof. Each tile weighs 4 pounds. The roof alone is several tons and tons of weight, let alone the wood superstructure that's underneath it, as well as the weight of the 4 to 6 foot thick walls. Where in the world is he going with this? The question is, how wide and how deep is the foundation? A little clue. The walls, I told you, are 4 to 6 feet thick, right? So the foundation has to be wider. Wider. Anybody want to take a guess of how wide and how deep the foundation of our church is?
10 by 10?
10 by 10, that's pretty close. 10 feet wide and 8 feet deep, the foundation. Now, why in the world would they take the time to build such a good foundation, a true foundation? Nobody's ever going to see it. I have never seen the foundation and will probably never seen the foundation of my life. So why not, let's use cheap materials and get it over with, do it fast. Because we want to move on. We want to see the really nice stained glass windows. What is wrong with that?
Without the foundation, it doesn't last.
It's not going to last. It's not going to last. So, where I'm going with this thinking is, why do you Catholics believe that Jesus is present, body, blood, soul, and divinity? What is your foundation for the belief? And you can't use the answer because Father told me. What is your foundational reason? And you can't say because my grandma said that. What is your foundational reason for believing, as the Catholic Church has taught for 2,000 years, that Jesus is present, body, blood, soul, and divinity?
Gospel.
He said it.
Who's he?
Jesus.
Said it.
Who's he?
Jesus.
Jesus is who?
God.
Oh, there's the answer. Here's the answer. Jesus is God. That's an awesome statement right there. Jesus is God. And the short version of the reason why we have believed that Jesus is present, body, blood, soul, and divinity for 2,000 years is because he said so. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. He was speaking symbolically. He didn't really mean that. He really didn't mean that. How do we know for certain he meant that?
John chapter 6.
Yeah.
No,
John
no. How do we know for certain he really meant those words literally?
Because he said this is.
Nope.
He didn't call back the people that walked
Those
away.
who
Ah, there's the answer. This is a hard saying. He's preaching to Jews. Was Jesus a Jew?
Yes.
Mary a Jew?
Yes.
Joseph a Jew?
Yep.
What did Jewish people believe about eating flesh and drinking blood?
It's not good.
Leviticus. Why did they believe it that way? Because the life of anything is in the blood. And only God can give life. So for those Jews to hear that, as Scott Hahn would say, we have to give a little bit of slack, a little bit of latitude to our Protestant brothers and sisters of why we believe what we believe. And we have to do better and getting our hackles all up and say, you're wrong, you're wrong. Sooner or later, we got to do better, and you're wrong, and I'm right. Correct?
Right.
So we got to give a little latitude. And as you pointed out, we know Jesus meant exactly what he said. He said what he meant, and he meant what he said. Because these words were very, very serious. He was preparing to go through his horrible ordeal. Do you really believe, if he could explain a little bit further, I'm really using this as symbolism, he would have said that? Of course he would. But the scripture says, what did the people do?
They walked
The
away.
scripture shows no account of those people ever coming back to Jesus Christ. We don't know what happened to them. He gave us free will. Did he care about all those people?
Yes.
Yeah. Does he love all those people?
Yes.
Yeah. But free will allows us as human beings to walk away. To church, to attend church or not attend church. To go to reconciliation or not go to reconciliation. Right? So repeating, our foundational belief that Jesus is truly present, body, blood, soul, and divinity, is because
He said
he
so.
said so. And John Martinoni, Father knows who I'm talking about, John Martinoni says if we ever get in a conversation with our Protestant brother and sister, and it gets passionate, which it does, if we have any kind of spark at all, if we have any life at all in our faith, it's important to us, right?
Yes.
You people could be doing a lot of other things today, right? To be quite honest with you, I could be doing a lot of other things today. Should be. We make a conscious choice because it's important to us. Because in this life and in the next life, our only true hope is in Jesus Christ. Oh, Steve, it can't be that simple, is it? Is it really that simple? Is our only hope in this life and in the next life is in Jesus Christ. And one error, one mistake, and our foundation becomes magnified as the structure rises up out of the ground. In fact, here's a little trivia. Did you know if you take a construction engineer into any hole in the ground in any major metropolitan area, I don't care if it's Boston, Massachusetts, or Chicago, Illinois, or Los Angeles, California, or Hong Kong, or wherever, you take a qualified construction engineer and you show them the size of the hole in the ground, what can they tell you?
The type of building that was there.
No, not the type. Where? Who said height? Raise your hand. How high the building's going to go. Because if you're going to build long, you're going to build strong, and you're going to count on that structure, not only in this life, in the next life, it has to be a true structure. It has to be a true foundation, right? So can I put all my weight and trust on Jesus Christ, or just a little bit? I'm going to trust him just a little bit here. Jesus, here's the deal. I'm German. I will dictate. I will tell you what part of my life I'm comfortable giving to you. Great step of faith there, right? I'm a real big man of faith on that one, right? How much part of our life does Jesus want control over? How much of our life does, if you don't like the word control, use this. How much of your life does Jesus want you to turn over to him? Now here's the trick question. Yeah, how much do we give him? And how much is he willing to take responsibility? There's where the rubber hits the road today. How much of our life, if we truly turn it over to him, is he willing to take responsibility for?
Yes.
Is he going to be lackadaisical about that responsibility? Oh, well, I'll get around to you and I'll pay attention to you. No, he is fully prepared to take the responsibility that we give him. But more often than not, if we're honest with ourselves, how much do we give him? A little bit. Oh, Jesus, I can't trust in that part of my life. That might involve some change, right? Boy, and change, that's great, right? Oh, wow, yeah, that's great for my neighbor down the hall. Yeah, she's great. She can change. Yeah, and I got a couple relatives, they need to change definitely. And I tell them every time we get together for family functions, you need to change, right? But this big beam in my own eye, right? We all know that story. Okay, so that's our foundation. That's up what we're talking about today. Grab your handout, if you will. I want to focus on something. Since this is EWTN-related activity, read the second paragraph for me. Everybody's got 2 handouts, right? You need 2 of these sheets of paper. Everybody good to go?
Is this the same side? Because I got two.
Yeah, they're identical. 2 pieces of paper, they're identical. You should have 2 sheets of paper. Thanks for the clarification. Read with me. The world would what? Real loud. The world would change what? If what? When I go into our chapel.
There is no difference,
What is Mother Angelica saying? That is some powerful statements, folks. What is Mother Angelica saying? Normally this talk takes place in a church. So we point to the tabernacle, and Mother Angelica is saying, Jesus present, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the tabernacle is no different than what?
And Jesus in heaven.
Oh, Peter, that can't be true, can it? Is it true?
Of course it's true.
Do all Catholics really and honestly believe that?
No.
How do we know for certain?
The way they act.
Oh, right answer. What is your first name? Pat, right answer. See, our words can deceive us. We can lie to our own self. Oh, I love you, honey. I love you, honey. And I hate to say this, boys, brothers, I know we're males here. Do we always mean that when we say that? No. You know, and she knows it better. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just a messenger today. I get on an airplane tomorrow and I go home, so send me your cards and letters if you want. But we don't. Our words, we lie. We lie to our own people that we love. But our actions, If I'm walking up to receive Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament, I'm chewing gum, what does that tell you?
No reverence.
If I'm dressed like I'm going to the beach, yeah, sure. If that's all you have in your own vacation, is basically beach clothing, go to church or don't go to church.
Go to church.
It'd be kind of nice if we stayed in the back of church, not draw all the attention, sit parade all the way to the front. Use some discretion, use some common sense. If I receive the sacrament and I walk immediately out to the church and start talking to my friends as I clear the exit door, what does that tell you?
Doesn't believe it.
Don't believe it. Don't believe it. So, I believe Mother Angelica is correct here. But the point is, when we get to the next section. So, Mother Angelica says, same. When I walk into a church, what should my attitude be? Yeah, respect, honor, reverence. The story is a nuclear physicist, I just read this the last couple weeks. A nuclear physicist was talking to another individual. He happens to be Catholic. And he's telling him a little bit about the real presence. He's talking about the tabernacle. And he says, think of it this way. If you could literally get close enough to the core of a nuclear reactor, it sits in, apparently he's seen this under construction, it sits in a container that has a thick glass shell around it. And there's a core of blue water. I don't know why it's blue. All unrelated stuff. I have no idea. I can barely pronounce nuclear physicist, but this is the story. He says, if that glass ever cracked or broke, it would destroy anything that was in close immediate proximity to that because of the heat and radiation. Tremendous heat would destroy everything if it ever failed. He says it would be a good idea to keep that in mind the next time you walk by a tabernacle. Everybody understand that?
Yep.
Tremendous power. Now, on that note, what makes us Eucharistic people? This is another term we have to start reminding ourselves. We as Catholics, Roland, are Eucharistic people. We are Eucharistic people, right?
Right.
If I go into a Catholic church and I take the tabernacle out of the church, what does it become?
A building.
A building, another prayer hall, a church. No disrespect. We are not here to pick on our Protestant brothers and sisters. We are here to remind ourselves of what makes us truly unique as Catholics. We got plenty to do to understand our own faith. We do not need to get into arguments and defend. And their fashion more often than not is a machine gun style question. Why do you worship Mary? And why do you do this? Blah, 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 blah. Yes, we can lovingly have communication with them. But we have so much work to do to understand our own Catholic faith, let's work on our own house first. Let's not complain about the neighbor's backyard if our own front yard isn't cleaned up, right? So, lovingly do that. Yes, we have millions, 30 million lapsed Catholics. And I'll come back to them a little later. Let's work on our own knowledge. Let's work on our own catechesis. Lord Jesus, we got plenty of work to do there, right? If our churches were full, Steve, if we had 98% of Mass attendance, if we can get back to understanding the beauty and the liberating experience of reconciliation, we probably don't need to get together today and talk about this. But folks, newsflash, that ain't happening here in Boston, Massachusetts, and it ain't happening, excuse my language, in Jasper, Indiana. You have huge opportunity to talk about this precious gift, and that's what we're trying to do today. Okay, next. Read with me. If someone were to ask me real loud what I think is the biggest single problem
For the Catholic Church
today, I would answer without hesitation. It is the widespread loss of faith in our Lord's real presence among us
in the Blessed Sacrament.
That is
That is by far the
what?
biggest problem.
Wow.
All the other church faces today, as pressing as many of them are, they all pale in comparison to this one.
Folks, I've been studying this topic for well over 15 years, lead Bible studies every year, getting ready to start a Catholic radio station. I don't share that with you, try to impress you, but I do think I know a little bit about Catholic faith, and I do know a little bit about the people who attend Catholic Church, attend Bible studies, attend conferences. Is it possible that Father Casey is right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
I believe he is. I believe he is. It's the single biggest problem. Sex scandal, horrible. Worse than horrible. My. We've lost trust from a lot of Catholics. And quite frankly, it's going to be hard wherever we're at to try to reestablish some of the trust in the Catholic Church. It is not going to be easy. Not going to be easy. And rightfully so. If you're a parent and those individuals moved, certain individuals for a reason, and didn't do something about it, shame on them. Shame on them. However, we do have to move on. We have to have humility. We have to be very patient with people who've been hurt, either by our own church or by our own fellow Catholics, and try to be better representatives of Jesus Christ in the future. But I do believe Father Casey is correct there. Okay, if we agree that that's the single biggest problem in our Catholic Church, then we better have not just the answer, the solution. If that's the biggest problem, what is the solution to that problem?
Adoration.
Right here he is. Segue right into the Eucharistic adoration. And that's what I brought here today to share a little bit with you. That is definitely the solution. The solution. The blessings and graces, all the things that can come from Eucharistic adoration are more than we could spend time talking about today. It will be the fire that re-energizes not only ourselves, but our whole church. And that's what we definitely need in a lot of our Catholic churches today, right? Because guess what, folks, can you think about this for a minute. And this is not a commentary on our current political situation, but it's just one example. Guess how many Christians, let's just pick on Catholics here for a minute. Approximately how many Christians voted percentage-wise in the last presidential election?
20%.
30%?
34%. So that means of all the Christians in the country, some 70% stayed at home. Now, I'm not here to talk about the current administration, but folks, when we, the Christians, pull out of our basic civic responsibility, nature abhors a vacuum, and guess who rushes in?
Satan.
No?
All kinds of people other than solid Christians. Why would you not want solid Christians in leadership roles? And here's another number. What percentage of Catholics voted for the current president in the last election? What percentage of Catholics?
50.
60, I think.
54. That's all I'm going to talk about today. Folks, the only reason I'm not here to pick on anybody, it's because our compass is wrong. My gosh, does anybody want to take a guess how many of the Supreme Court justices were supposedly considered themselves Roman Catholic? Out of the 9?
6.
5.
5 of them.
So, we're off. Our compass is off. And our country is navigating in the wrong direction because our compass is off. But we talked about the problem, and Ray, what's the solution again? Yeah, Eucharistic adoration. Okay, let's skip on down. I want to talk about something else a little bit as I'm looking at my time. At the very bottom, another one of our challenges in our road towards better understanding Eucharistic adoration is we have to understand, does Jesus really want to be my friend or not?
Yes.
Well, yes, he does. Does everybody understand that? No. This particular YouTube video clip I selected because it's the story behind the Paul Harvey version, if you will, of what a friend we have in Jesus. Folks, it is absolutely 24 karat gold solid. It is unbelievable. If you don't know the story behind the hymn and what went into that, I'm not going to say any more because that'll be a teaser. The thumbnail, which is the little picture you're looking for, you should be able to go to this address, type that in, and what you're looking for is an older gentleman with a yellow sweater and glasses on. The runtime, I think, is about 9 minutes and 50 seconds or something. Keep a Kleenex handy because I don't care how tough, strong, or big a male you are, I can assure you the story will be unbelievably touching. And you ladies, I know you'll love it. So please go ahead when you have an opportunity. Again, please don't do this during work time. I don't need cards or letters from your boss. If you have permission at work, you can do it after 5 o'clock or do it at home. Is there anybody here that does not have access to a YouTube connection? Anybody here that does not? You need to make a friend, find somebody that's got a laptop computer or a desktop, and tell them you'll buy them a coffee and a donut or wherever, and they'll get it on your...
Buy him 2 dollars.
There you go. Okay. Flipping over as our time is moving down. Let's go to the backside, if you will. Let's go to the second paragraph. I'm going to tell you a good story here. Read with me. There are no defections. Stop. What are defections?
Mistake.
No. Defections and leaving. People leaving, abandoning, walking away. There are no. Now, Carl Keating is a Catholic, and so he's talking about the Catholic Church here. There are no. Read with me. Defections in a church. What?
Where the people are well catechized.
Or big word, impression. Don't like to use big words. Catechized, instructed. Basics, ABCs. What Catholicism 101. I have yet to what?
I have yet to meet someone who has left the Catholic Church who knows his or her faith well.
So, Jesus had strong warnings about judging people. Very strong warnings about that. However, in this particular case, what could we possibly conclude might be a possibility of some of the people who are no longer coming to our Catholic Church? Not going at all. They're part of the quote-unquote nuns. What religious affiliation do you have? None. Or they're going to the Pentecostal church or evangelical church. What could we possibly conclude about some of those people? Well, no, they don't know their faith very well. They don't know their faith very well. Now, in all fairness, before we jump on criticizing them, who should take responsibility for that?
Parents.
The church.
We should. The domestic church, the family, obviously. Should we all go ahead and say, well, there's another reason why Father's not getting around to do it? No. Is Father way too busy already? Yeah. Is it possible maybe we need to roll up our sleeves, study the Catholic faith a little bit so we can in turn give just a small portion of that to our own children?
Yeah.
The answer is yes. If you're not sure, the answer is definitely yes. Does that mean that sometimes it's not easy, that we got to do some extra work to find good, quality, Orthodox Catholic materials? Marian, yes or no?
Yes.
Of course it is. Of course. Does that mean we're all different and the same thing you share with women or girls is exactly the same stuff you can share with men and boys? Do we have to share different things with different people differently? Of course. Did Jesus teach differently depending on the group he was with? Mm-hmm. Of course he did. And by that way, what was one of his most favorite ways of teaching? The parable. A story. We all love stories. So the next time you get a chance to share with your children or grandchildren, if you have a story, if you picked up something like that, that is not that there's anything wrong with picking up the book. But show me where taking this book and beating over somebody's head does any good. Show me where standing up and pontificating chapter and verse on and on and on and on is effective. Not in this culture. Does that mean we can't use this book? I didn't say that. We have to be creative, and this is where the work comes in. We have to be creative and look for ways, and guess what? Will I make mistakes in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ, Steve? Should I go ahead the first time I get rejected or I get my feelings hurt, should I quit and abandon and say this will not work and never talk about Jesus again in my life?
No.
And if I do that, who would love to hear you say that?
The devil.
Satan, the devil, our enemy. He'd love to shut us up. And on that particular note, who is the one person who really wants us not to believe in the real presence?
Satan.
Satan, our enemy, because he knows there's real power in what?
The truth.
The Eucharist. There's real power in the Eucharist, and hence there's real power in Perpetual Eucharistic Adoration. Absolutely. The story about Carl Keating, I believe Carl Keating's right. I believe it's 1981. Carl's a practicing attorney in San Diego, out in California. And he comes out of Mass one morning, and there's a flyer underneath the windshield wiper. And the flyer, he starts reading it, being curious. He recognized it wasn't from his church. So he starts reading it, and it was talking about a couple things in general about the Christian faith, and it said something about the Catholic faith that wasn't true. Wow, this is interesting. So he reads a little bit further, reads about, down towards the bottom of the page, there's something else about the Catholic faith. Well, that's not true. We don't believe that way. Flips it over. Read. Here's another thing. Wait a minute now. That's not the way we're taught. So he kind of thought about that. He goes to work for the next couple of days, and the more he thought about it, he goes, you know, that's not really right. This came from a church that just opened, one of the big Pentecostal churches down the street, and they're doing what? They're attempting to do what?
Advertising.
Steal away the Catholics.
Proselytizing.
Let's just cut right down to the rubber roll. They're trying to steal the sheep. Let's just call it what it is. Steal the sheep, right? Now we're not mad at those people. So Carl's sitting there thinking about this, and the more he thought about it, kind of got his goat up a little bit. He goes, wait a minute, that's not right. You know, yet we all have a sense of justice, right? We want to try to do what's right. If we make a mistake, we should be big boys and girls and say we made a mistake and ask what?
Forgiveness.
But when we see unrighteousness or something that's wrong, we should have some sort of duty, especially if it's about the faith, to correct it, right?
Absolutely.
Sure, speak up for Jesus, right. So he gets back to his office, a couple more days go by, pulls out a sheet of paper, he decides to do something about it. Puts the paper in the typewriter. Remember that instrument? Remember the IBM Selectric 2? Had the little wheel on it. It was just, I still don't understand the technology, how that thing works. And that wheel on it was the coolest thing. Now, I realize this is a little bit older group, but if this were millennials, like under 25 people, I couldn't say. They think, what planet did he come off of, you know? Oh well.